The smells of a fresh forest. We as New Zealanders are fortunate enough to live in a country where trees of all kinds grow so easily and so quickly. As well as providing a valuable overseas income, they help to keep our air fresh and clean and play a vital part in making New Zealand the country it is. For you, the homeowner, trees provide a great source of very economical and environmentally friendly heat. And what's more, because wood is a renewable resource, kind of like stored solar energy, it'll always be an ample supply. And by choosing wood to heat your home, you're playing your part in keeping our country green and clean and our skies clear. Hi, I'm Rochelle Butler, and I want to show you a few ways to get the best out of your wood heater, as well as keep emissions as low as possible. I also want to give you a few tips on your coal appliance as well. You know, burning wood as your primary heat source is a very economic and sensible way of heating. And by choosing wood to heat your home, you're playing your part in a major conservation role. For many years, our combustion engineers have been recognised as being world leaders, and New Zealand technology has been at the international forefront since the emergence of new age wood burners. For example, the Stay Clean glass door, seen on nearly all heaters these days, was a New Zealand invention. And Kiwis have also played a major role in developing international standards to keep our air clean. So you can be sure that whatever appliance you have, it really is among the best in the world. And did you know that burning wood produces no more carbon dioxide than if it's left on the forest floor to rot? All you are doing is accelerating the natural cycle so vital for clean air and ready oxygen supply. But even better, you're also destroying the methane which would otherwise affect the ozone layer. So what's the best wood to use? Which burns hotter and which burns longer? And when's the best time to have your wood delivered? Let's ask a member of the New Zealand Home Heating Association who's been selling wood and heaters for a long time. So Luke, you've been in the wood and heating industry for over 15 years. What's the best type of wood to use, and when should a person go and purchase that wood?
The best wood to use in wood burners is the hardest wood. The most readily available today would be Manuka. The harder the wood, the longer the burn. Woods like macrocarpa and pine are good to establish a fire, but to get the length of burn that you should get out of a good wood burner, you really need some hardwood. Blue gum is another wood that's good in that particular situation.
So what's the difference between wet wood and green wood?
Green wood is wood that's been freshly cut. It just hasn't been seasoned at all. It has a very, very high content of sap, and sap, if you try and burn it in a wood burner, will turn to creosote, can block up flue systems, and it just doesn't give you any heat. Wet wood, which could quite easily be dry seasoned wood that's been out in the rain, will have a moisture content, sure, but water does evaporate very easily, and even if you were to put a wet piece of firewood into a raging fire, the water would evaporate very quickly and that wood would start to burn and keep you warm.
So tell us about the structure of wood and why it's prone to holding so much water.
Well, as a tree's growing, it has cells within it, and the cells just contain sap and moisture, and a piece of firewood in its green form can hold 100% of its own weight and moisture.
So what wood should a homeowner avoid using?
You should always use ordinary natural wood, not treated timbers that have been processed. Processed timber usually has tannalizing, that has very corrosive acids in there. Once burnt, you can't do anything with that ash. You'd have to dispose of it in a pretty selective sort of way, whereas natural wood, when burnt, gives you an ash that you can use on the garden and use as manure.
What about driftwood? Is that very good for your fire at home?
Definitely no. Driftwood has a very high salt content, and that then becomes very corrosive under high temperatures, and it would totally invalidate your warranty of any metal or cast iron firebox.
Where do coal and carbonettes fit into the picture?
Coal and carbonettes are generally used more in open fires than wood burners. However, there are some wood burners on the marketplace today, because of their quality and the way in which they're made, they're able to burn both wood and coal. But coal and carbonettes do burn a lot hotter. So in an open fire situation, they assist wood and tend to give you a lot more heat.
And finally, Luke, what special tip would you like to give homeowners out there to ensure that they get the best out of their fire?
We've talked about firewood. That's really, really important to get the best heat out of your fire. Always ensure that you get your fire regularly serviced by reputable people. Members of the New Zealand Home Heating Association are able to come and inspect it and check it for you. That's about it.
Stack it loosely with the end of the stack towards prevailing winds for quicker drying. And split larger pieces so more surface is exposed to the breeze. Soft woods such as pine can take 6 to 9 months to dry properly. Hardwoods, like some gums, can take 12 months or even more. The simple key to a good fire is dry or seasoned fuel. Okay, let's do a little experiment. Let's test the moisture content of this dry piece of wood that's been seasoned for 12 months with this green wood. Okay, first of all, we'll test the moisture content of this dry piece of wood. As you can see, this piece of dry wood has around about 15% moisture, which is ideal for home heating. Now let's try the green wood. The green wood has about 34% moisture content and it's been cut for some time. So as you can see, it still needs a lot more seasoning. So let's take some of this green wood and see what we can do with it to make it drier so you can use it at home. Now we're going to dry some wood to what would be considered an acceptable level of moisture, just to show you how much water a few logs can hold. Now, you probably don't have access to a wood kiln like this, but then we're in a bit of a hurry. Nevertheless, you can dry your wood to an acceptable level simply by storing it in a dry and airy position as early in the year as possible and well before you need to use it. Let's see how much water we've really removed. This is our dry wood, and this is the same volume of our green wood. Now the dry wood weighs 7.3 kilos and the wet wood 9.2 kilos. Now that's a difference of around 2 kilos. That's a lot of water. In fact, it's this much water. Now if you're trying to burn this at home, you'd have to get rid of all this water before your wood will burn efficiently and cleanly. I'll show you what I mean. Now we're going to put the same amount of wood in each of these heaters. In this heater we're going to put the wet wood, and in this one the dry wood. Now let's see how long it will take to get a flame in each of the heaters. And don't forget, when you're loading the wood in, to keep your air shutter control open and leave it open until the flame starts burning brightly. Look how sluggish our wet wood is. Now that's because it's trying to evaporate all that excess water, which is laden with unburnt chemicals and resin. Now the problem is that these all go up the chimney, and because we haven't been able to get the flue temperature to a good level, it's likely that the water and chemicals will condense on the inside of your flue, and the output from the chimney will be smoky and dirty. But it's not just the smoke that's the problem. Even with maximum air, we can't generate the pull needed to make the fire burn brightly to the point where the chemicals burn completely. Because of this, the flue temperature is lower and the moisture condenses as creosote. Now creosote can either be wet, causing drips of tar in the system, or hard and flaky. Whatever form it takes, the rough surface slows the flue gases even more, resulting in even lower flue temperature and worse burning. But creosote is also highly flammable, and if it isn't removed, it can result in a chimney fire. And what's more, you'll need to have your heater serviced more often, and it may even reduce the life of your heater and flue. And by the way, a good sign of creosote buildup is a dirty glass door or puffs of smoke when the door is opened. So how can you tell if your wood is dry? Let's ask Dave Pullen, who has been in the heating game for over 25 years. So how does a homeowner know if their wood's dry enough?
Right, Michelle. Well, let's have a look at these two pieces of wood. First of all, we have a dry piece of wood, which shows radial cracks very well, and a homeowner can actually see that when he goes to buy his wood. On this piece of wood, we actually have no radial cracks, so therefore this piece of wood is not dry. It's still probably quite green. Now, another test that the homeowner can actually do is that once he's got a red ember bed in the bottom of his fire, he can take a piece of wood, put it into the middle of the fire, shut the door, leave the air control wide open, and if the piece of wood lights up and burns brightly within the first minute, it's very good. If it takes 2 minutes to 3 minutes to burn, well then it should probably be put back on the heat for another month or even 2. And if it takes 5 minutes to catch a light and burn brightly, then you should put it back on the heat and use it next year, or take it back to the wood merchant you bought it from.
So there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. And you can't get much more evidence than this. If your wood doesn't meet this criteria, then simply let it dry a bit longer. Wet wood gives a much lower heat output, and just look at the chimney, it's still smoking while this one's clear. So you can really see it makes sense to use dry fuel if you want to be really warm this winter and save yourself some money. But remember that coal too will burn dirty if you don't have a properly prepared fire. Make sure you light a cold fire on a clean grate so that air can flow through and around the lumps of fuel. Use an ample supply of kindling on top of the fire lighter or newspaper base. And before adding any coal at all to the fire, make sure that the kindling is burning brightly and then add a few pieces at a time. Once the initial supply of coals has started to burn, add a strip of coal front to back alongside the burning coals. Once this strip has started to burn, add another strip against its burning face. Keep adding fuel from side to side rather than dumping it on the top of the fire. If your appliance will burn a mix of wood and coal, follow the manufacturer's instructions on the best way for a clean burn. And if you rely on an open fire at the moment, remember an inbuilt solid fuel heater is far more efficient to operate and safer too. What's more, they make a great addition to any room. Again, your friendly local home heating association member can help you there. But whether you burn wood, coal or a mixture, for the best results, remember the 3 F's. Fuel, make sure it's as dry as possible. Fire, make sure it burns as brightly as possible. And flue, make sure it's installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and is the correct height. And make sure you have it cleaned annually. So there you have it. Just follow these simple pointers and you'll be as warm as toast in the coldest of winters. And what's more, you'll get the best out of your wood heater, you'll keep our skies clean, and you'll be able to breathe easier. Oh, and one final tip. A day like today is perfect to get that first load of wood. So come on, let's go to it.
Nothing beats warm fire on a chilly evening, but perhaps what a lot of people don't realise is that a wood burner that's not operated efficiently causes air pollution and cold feet. Hi there, I'm Millen, presenter for the New Zealand Home Heating Association. Now over the next few minutes, we're going to show you how to light your fire and operate it correctly. Now we're here in one of our members' retail stores, where Sharon will show you the correct procedure for lighting and operating your fire. You'll need the following: a packet of firelighters, some newspaper. It's best not to use coloured or coated paper because these cause pollution. A quantity of finely split kindling in a variety of sizes, and some seasoned firewood split into a range of sizes and lengths suitable for your wood heater. With most modern burners, air enters the firebox through a narrow strip above and behind the glass door panel. This air wash flows down into the front of the fire because it is cooler, denser and heavier than the combustion gases. So the best place to light your fire is at the front of the firebox, just inside the loading door, so that it gets plenty of air during startup. Crumple about half a dozen sheets of newspaper and place them in the firebox. The amount of newspaper you'll need will depend on the size of the firebox and how dry and fine the kindling is. Now, a common mistake is to use too little newspaper, but by placing firelighters under the newspaper, you can help sustain the firebox temperature until the wood is burning properly. Place about 10 to 15 pieces of finely split dry kindling on top of the paper. Softwoods such as pine make good kindling. Ideally, the kindling should be placed on and behind the newspaper so that the combustion air reaches the newspaper quickly when starting the fire. It's also a good idea to add 2 or 3 very small pieces of firewood to the kindling load before lighting. Now, the goal when lighting a wood fire is to achieve a rapid ignition of the kindling fuel load. Now, with just a little bit of practice, you can achieve a hot, bright, smoke-free fire in just a relatively short time. Set the air control to fully open and light the firelighters or newspaper. After a few minutes, when the wood is flaming brightly, latch the door. Some appliances have more restrictive air supplies than others, so the door may need to be left ajar until the flue system is warm and producing a strong draft. Now, operating the heater with the door open slightly can cause dangerously high temperatures. So for this reason, the heater should never be left unattended during startup or at any other time when the door is unlatched. In most modern wood heating appliances, after the fire has burned down, the live coals or embers that remain can be found at the back of the firebox, furthest from the air supply. Now, to restart the fire, rake the live coals forward to just inside the loading door. If only a small amount of charcoal remains, you'll have to restart the fire with kindling. If there's a good quantity of glowing charcoal, place at least 3 and preferably more pieces of small firewood on and behind the charcoal. The new fuel load should ignite almost immediately. In fact, the bottom pieces should be flaming before the door is closed. Open the air inlets fully and close the door. Allow the fire to burn with bright, turbulent flames until the wood is completely alight. This usually takes between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on the size and moisture content of the wood pieces. When the wood is burning well, reduce the air setting to produce the desired amount of heat and length of burn. It's best to reduce the air control setting in 2 or 3 stages, as this will create less air pollution, as the fire will not have to recover from the single large reduction in the air supply. As long as there is solid wood in the firebox, there must be flames to ensure no release of unburnt smoke that will increase air pollution and reduce the efficiency of the heater. Now, if you have a coal fire, make sure you light a coal fire on a clean grate so the air can travel through and around the lumps of fuel. Use an ample supply of kindling on top of the firelighters or newspaper base, and before adding any coal at all to the fire, make sure that the kindling is burning brightly, and then add a few pieces at a time. Once the initial supply of coals has started to burn, add a strip of coal front to back alongside the burning coals. Once a strip has started to burn, add another strip against its burning face. Keep adding fuel from side to side rather than dumping it on the top of the fire. Now, beside me is an open fire. Now, if you have an open fire, the same procedures are required to start and operate it as we showed you with the closed combustion solid fuel burner. If you want a fire that burns efficiently and keeps you warm and cosy, here are some key points for you to follow. Always buy your firewood early, preferably a season ahead. If the wood is seasoned, it will contain less moisture and give off more heat when burned. If possible, store the firewood where rain is kept off the top of the pile, but air is still able to circulate through. Use plenty of good kindling to get the fire started. This will form a good base of embers for the wood to burn from. Maintaining this base of embers throughout is important to ensure maximum heat and efficiency. Firelighters are quick and easy to use to start the fire and are better than paper. Modern wood burners should be left on high for at least the first hour before dampening them down.